Alright guys, HyDra again, so I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So far, your 4 semi-finalists are confirmed for the Championship Sunday here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia at the Esports World Cup, and it was not without the drama getting to that point today. So many talking points this afternoon and this evening on multiple of this different series. OpTic versus Cloud9 to close out the day as well. Drama in that one. Plenty of other fascinating series as well, with a massive upset, it's got to be said, on the lower side of the bracket. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Apologies, this video wasn't playing in the intro, but I kind of nailed the intro, so we're just going to run with it, to be fair. Again, I've got to say, the content they've come up with this event is fantastic. Okay, TJ's acting might not have been the greatest, but whatever. We shall move on. I know that Scump and Zinny and everyone were talking about this little Paul Allen, you know, tasteful thickness of it kind of scene, if you guys have seen American Psycho and all that good stuff. But let's dive into some of these series, because this is a crucial moment when it comes down to what we're going to discuss in the OpTic versus Cloud9 series in a few minutes' time. TJ and the Carolina boys, they play Surge, and map 1, Beans, goes 41 in 17, absolutely fries. I think it's clear when you watch Beans, the guy is unbelievably skilled and talented, but for whatever reason, he can't seem to string together 2 good maps in a row. Like, he had an unbelievable game 1, and I was convinced this was going to be a Beans Legacy takeover series, but in game 2, the search wasn't so good. Surge eventually tied up after a bit of a poor one from Beans. And it wasn't just Beans playing bad, to be fair, but Beans then gets 10 kills in both the Control, which they won, and then the subsequent hardpoint, which they lost. So we had a real stinky second half of the series, and actually ends up negative, which was genuinely impressive after starting the series 41 in 17. I'm sure that there was part of Clay as well that saw this unfold and was thinking, yeah, nice one, guys. Drop me for this type thing. But look, I don't think getting Beans in was the problem. It's just, is this Carolina team much different? Because their listening map 4 on the Rio was just bad. I mean, it was the same as I used to complain about with Clay, when it just sounded like they had no real energy. So I thought that was a problem, and Beans was chirping after the invasion control. And, well, we know how this one ended, as quite often it does when somebody chirps. Now, this was the game 5. After this moment, Ravens lost the plot and basically just threw away the game. Lost so many rounds in a row. But I don't necessarily blame them, because in this situation, it was a 3v1 for aBeZy. aBeZy got the first kill, and at this moment the game started lagging. And it's super frustrating that we have these server issues. It's nothing that the organisers, as far as I'm aware, can really do anything about. It's just the game server sometimes lags because COD is broken, and they've done, I believe, the best job they can to help it over the weekend, but sometimes the server just breaks. And it happens right here. The entire lobby is lagging, by the way. aBeZy in a 1 versus 2. 25 seconds or so on the clock, and Ravens have the unbreakable setup. They know where he is. Beans is in this spot. Fellow's over by the bomb. Like, there's no way he's going to win this round. The chances are probably, like, you know, less than 5% that he wins the round. Maybe 1%, whatever you want to say. Beans gets the kill, and the round ends, and it's tied up 1-1. But then the game ends because they have to restart it because the server broke, and then they decide to replay this entire round. And look, you can make that decision if you want. In my opinion, this should have been Ravens' round 100%. The round literally ended. Yes, everyone was lagging, but the round ended. It was 1-1 on the scoreboards. They reset the game. However, the referees decided that Surge would get a full replay of this round, despite the fact that aBeZy was never really going to win it. And maybe that doesn't matter, the percentage chances of winning, but it feels wrong that they got to replay this round, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others. After this point, Ravens were fuming, and like, they should have, obviously, as professionals, locked back in and actually not just thrown away the game, because at this point they clearly lost full after that, and it was so downhill so quickly that by the time they actually regained a bit, it was all over. And TJ was tweeting this before the series was even over. That's one thing to remember, right? That our footage is like 5 minutes behind what's actually happening over there in the venue. So TJ was tweeting this after the game was over for him, but not when it was over for us. And as Brian Saint says, 2v1 with bomb planted to be, and we don't get the round for that. Like, that's a joke. Now, that decision, I think, was a poor decision. But if you're going to make that the precedent, and I don't know what the precedent is. I haven't seen the rulebook. I don't know if there is a rulebook. Karma said in Ben J. Nassim's chance just a few minutes ago as I'm recording this video that he hasn't seen a rulebook either. Maybe there is one, maybe there isn't. I don't know. Are the referees just deciding on a whim? Sure. But if they are, at least have some consistency, and we'll get to that when we get to the OpTic series. There was also Fellow frustrated that his PC port was broken, so he switched it mid-series, could finally shoot back because he obviously had a pretty poor start to the series. So it is what it is, I suppose, but I just think the Ravens were missing something in terms of getting over the line here. Surge, I just felt, were the better team overall, and yeah, Ravens, despite the upgrade that they might have made in some essence, still have some of the core problems that they previously had. And there's clearly the talent there, and TJ's had a really good season compared to where he's been arguably for the last couple of years, but it obviously wasn't enough in the end. Bit of drama as well, love a bit of drama. aBeZy after the series was calling out Gwyn, saying, how did this guy win Rookie of the Year? Should have been me instead. And that then continued. So aBeZy tweeted this out as well. If you guys don't know, I'm blocked by aBeZy on Twitter, so you can actually see me. Here's me in the background, the shirt, you know, the jacket, the cheeks, whatever. I'm not going to talk about the cheeks. Anyway, this is my phone. I'm taking a picture on Trey's phone because I couldn't see the tweet. So here we go. This is your Rookie of the Year. 1-3-2 against Carolina. Hashtag drown them out. And then Gwyn was clapping back and saying, lost 3-2. Terrible way to end the year. This guy, why is he on my dick? I never said a word to this guy in my life. Never hate on another man. Hope they make the run. They're insane. But stop talking trash was the vibe there from Gwyn. And it didn't stop there, to be fair. As Brian Saint says, maybe let's have some Sable service at events, because when there's this much money on the line, it is super frustrating to see the way that things have gone this tournament. And look, there has been some drama, and we always like to talk about the drama and the decisions that were made. But in an ideal world, these servers would be perfectly fine. And also in an ideal world, they'd be playing on proper LAN. If you guys aren't aware, every event that's been played in the CDL or at this event for the last several years isn't true LAN. They're actually playing on an online server just across the main stage. It used to be, when it was on console, they would literally hook up the consoles together and you would play on a proper local area network. Nowadays, we just call it LAN because they're there in the same room, but they're still playing on a server, and that's still causing problems, right? So, you know, aBeZy's talking trash on Beans because he was talking trash, and I don't know if there's going to be any other warnings or fines or whatever, but I thought it was pretty funny. As Clay says, hate to see the boys go out like that, but I wonder if a bit of him was thinking, yeah, not bad for my stock, as it were. This is pretty interesting as well from Mama Gwyn. Thanks to Rose for pointing this out to me. Calling aBeZy a crybaby, saying, oh, you could just congratulate him on being Rookie of the Year, be a good sport and all this, and then, you know, she's in the reply still talking trash. I always find this stuff funny. I'm not going to dive into the details. It's, you know how it goes. A mother of a player, you're always going to get stuff like this. And she says, 80 like 24 or something, he's too old to be a rookie. So I thought it was all rather entertaining. These were the overall series numbers, by the way, as well. aBeZy had a big one though, 1.33. They win in 5, and Surge advance in the bracket to play a very interesting team we'll see in a second. I want to boost through this series quick. There was a replay. Game 1, FaZe were up early. Boston took the lead on the replay. Then FaZe played some pretty flawless COD, and to be fair, Boston kind of bottled it relatively hard. Wake had a big map 1, which we've very rarely seen, almost 7,000 damage. Still lost, of course, and then the series was very quickly over after that. So, you know, the top 5 crash outs, Ben JoeDeceives topping the lot, which is pretty funny. Game 2 was dominant. Cellium took it over. And honestly, in some ways, Boston, I mean, they look a bit like their roster's kind of like what a Challengers team has been this season. I think they're better than that. I genuinely was really impressed by their listening map 1. But to be fair, shortly after that listening, they got absolutely body slammed for the rest of the series. So, yeah, Boston reached an inside job. Here's Doug Sensen Martin, the potential GM of the team. And these were the overall series numbers. It was pretty ugly, I'm not going to lie. So we're going to move on rapidly. Boston out of the tournament. No real surprise there. This, though, was a massive shock to many, including myself, because I thought Toronto would have enough to get over the line here. Thieves hadn't really impressed me so far this tournament. There's talk about Ghosty, withdrawal symptoms, whatever you want to say. And Scrap turns up game 1, pops a 3-piece, nearly gets a streak, and you're thinking, wow, this is going to be over. And this was over. Map 1 was over, 250 to 100. They nearly 100-point clubbed them, and it wasn't looking great. Game 2, Toronto started off absolutely flying, and genuinely, the first, 15 minutes of this series, the first couple of rounds of search and the hard points, was some of the best COD that I've seen Toronto play, genuinely, since like Major 1. Their teamwork was on points, they looked really good, but quite quickly they went out the window, and I think there's a concern for Toronto about whether they break down a bit too much, and I thought that was the problem for Thieves, but they seem to have a bit more dog in them lately. Maybe Kremp has helped. And I've been critical of Kremp, because I think he is, and to be fair, this is true for many of their players, just a bit too inconsistent. Kremp is very up and down. When he's on, he's absolutely on, and we know that the talent is there. But he's a bit too inconsistent for my liking. But to be fair, as soon as on the watch party I started to call him out, he absolutely turned up on the final couple maps of the series and completely shut me up. So fair play to him on that. This was the crowd as well. Look, maybe not absolutely packed out, but for the OpTic series it pretty much was. It's not the biggest esports crowd you're ever going to see, but it's actually kind of fire. Like, there is some energy in that venue. It is great to see. It might not come quite across on home and everything like that, but, you know, there are fans there. Like, it is an event with fans. And even then, you know, we're getting the Let's Go OpTic chance. We're getting the Let's Go Falcons chance the other day. These things are happening. But as the series progressed, Thieves tie up the series, they then lose the control, but they win a big sub-base hardpoint, a map that in hindsight Toronto will think they shouldn't have lost, and then they go to a Karachi, and genuinely on the Karachi search and destroy, Ultra had their chances, but they were not able to capitalize them on them at all. Ghosty made a massive play to get them to 5-3, and after that it was pretty much all as she wrote. And Toronto Ultra, they lost to Thieves back in the first round of the World Championship before then beating them again later in the tournament. This time they lost to them, and there's no chance of redemption, right? Single elimination, best of 5, they're out of there. And you've got to think for Toronto, failing to win champs, which is the goal for all of these teams, bowing out top 8 at the World Cup to a team like Thieves again, a team that's probably even themselves going to look to upgrade for next season. Is it the end of the line for this Toronto team? It probably has to be. There's talk about CleanX Insights, whether they're going to blow it up. This was a wild tweet from 100 Thieves that I'm only going to pause on for 2 or 3 seconds. Then obviously the flank were talking trash about it as well, because Scrappy was talking his trash on some of the amateur players the other day, saying, oh, hit the hill, boys, that's your plan, but if you actually want to win. But it didn't work out too well for them here in the end. And the funny thing is, they got outslayed heavy, Thieves, bad over the series, but they won 2 close search and destroys and took a respawn, and that was all it took. Kremp was the key player as well in the map 5 to get them over the line. As Scraps appreciate the love, great fan base, but I wonder what he's thinking about this, right? Is he thinking, who do I drop? Is he thinking, where do I go? Interesting questions for you guys to answer in the comment section below, but these were the overall numbers. Scrap plus 17, 91 kills, not good enough again. And the final series of the day, OpTic Tectors versus Cloud9, a rematch that we've seen so many times already this season, including, of course, the World Championship Grand Final. Every time they've played, OpTic have come out on top, and guess what happens again today? The orange jersey today for OpTic, not exactly sure what this is all about. I know that they've got it on pre-order, all that type of stuff, but here they are walking into the venue, and OpTic very much impressed me so far this weekend. Cloud9 are good, for sure, but they are simply, and I felt this during the map 1 of this series, they're just not good enough. Like, OpTic are just better, and 6 stars a great map for OpTic, everyone knows that, but we saw it here emphatically. This was, again, one of those moments that makes me think, like, wow, this OpTic team has what it takes to, I'm never going to say emulate or replicate the Dynasty, but this is what the Dynasty used to do. The first rotation would be 120, 120, and the second rotation would absolutely blow the game out of the water. And OpTic have done it again. Same thing happened here on 6 star. Kenny was going big as well. Pred was going big. It's all part of the plan. Obviously, Pred was making plays as always. This is one of his absolute best maps, and Shotzzy still absolutely phenomenal to watch. But the big drama really came in map 2 of this series. Given what we discussed earlier about the Ravens versus Surge series, here we go again, because this was a moment, a 4 versus 2 that became a 4 versus, or it became a 3 versus 2 after Pred got traded. The game started to lag again. Now, this is a situation where, as I say, my perception is you should play the round out and then you decide what you're going to do. My feeling is you should play the round out and just give it to the team that won the round. It's not always the best solution, but it is a solution, and it's at least a consistent solution. In this case, the round ends, OpTic win the rounds, 3-1, congratulations. But if you do it the same way that the referees decided earlier in the day, guess what happens? You have to replay the rounds, because that's what they literally did a couple of hours ago. They didn't. They give OpTic the rounds. So, yeah, obviously Cloud9 are going to be fuming, and probably for good reason. They also saw the series earlier in the day. The team that was most fuming, obviously, were, you know, the poor Ravens boys, because Brian Sate tweeted this out before we even seen it happen on the broadcast, right? Like, the boys on the Ravens were tweeting about this 4 or 5 minutes before we'd even seen it, and Brian Sate was seemingly confirming, yeah, they've made the ruling. Now, it wasn't really clear whether they'd changed their minds, what was going to be happening, but as Bryanson says, they gave OpTic the rounds. Fellow's like, surely OpTic ain't getting the rounds, but look, obviously people in the replies are saying, oh, it's OpTic cheese, you know, green wall, they're going to give it to OpTic. I don't really think that plays a part. I just think it's inconsistent refereeing, is it not? And obviously we talked about earlier, Karma was in the same perspective, and Bean says, I was stuck, or this guy was stuck in ice cream, bomb down 1v2, 25 seconds left is apparently a replay, but this 4v3, 4v2, whatever, while the game is lagging, is not. It's, look, I think that in both cases, I think OpTic should have got the round, and I think Ravens should have got the round. But after they didn't give the round to Ravens, you can't give the round to OpTic, right? I mean, unless you can give me a good explanation as the decision makers here, that there is, you know, good understanding of why they made this decision and why the situations are different. Like, when you come back from a break, you need to have told Miles, hey, this is the reason why that situation was different to this situation. and this is why the decision was made. There's no such reasoning. They just kind of came up with the idea. As far as I'm, that's my perception because that's what we saw, and it's tough to read into it otherwise. So, OpTic loving it, absolutely. Obviously, TJ says, what a joke, and I feel bad for the Ravens boys because even TJ goes on to say this, joke of an esport, this just doesn't happen in any other title, which is, like, there's stuff that happens in COD that is just immense. You wouldn't believe it. It doesn't happen in another game. I don't necessarily disagree with this perspective, but yeah, wow, what a time, what a day. And after the 3-1, Shotzzy then goes big. I mean, this 1 versus 2 was massive. This clutch, this was nailing the coffin stuff. You've just lost a round that was kind of FaZe, whatever. Shotzzy 1 versus 2 absolutely slams Kismet. By the way, Shotzzy is like the only player that I see doing this right now. The drop shots from Shotzzy are disgusting, and he's the best player in the game, bar none, maybe HyDra, at actually pulling this stuff off. But to be fair to Cloud9, they kept it competitive. I mean, these were your championship grand finalists a few weeks ago, and Kiz was playing really well in the control, to be fair. They brought it back, they won the game 3 in the end, and they win the control. But in the end, it wasn't enough. OpTic Gaming, they get the job done, and they advance to the semi-finals, beating Cloud9 every time they've played them this season. I just think for C9, they just need, well, at times, a bit more firepower in these moments. OpTic are just better, and I think they've proven that time and time again. Even this game where Cloud9 had their chances, it still wasn't enough. They got broken. Spawns in the back, and just the production at the key moments isn't always there. Questions on Skyz. Kismet played well in this series, all things considered, but, questions on Skyz, questions on Kismet, and at the end of the day, we end the day with Cloud9, as in the Subliners, your top 2 team at champs, and Toronto Ultra, your top 3 team at champs, all out of the tournament already. The bracket, by the way, is crazy. OpTic will play FaZe in the next round tomorrow, and on the other side of the bracket, 100 Thieves will play Surge. So one of OpTic and FaZe, and one of 100T and Surge are in the grand finals of the Esports World Cup. The winner will be determined tomorrow. So much to discuss, of course, tomorrow morning. Massively enjoyed your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.